it's finally at an end, but it's been a great year for us. So first thing, if you want an agenda, there's some back there. First thing is for us to take attendance. Let's see.
We're here.
We have 21 here tonight, and then everyone who's on Zoom with us. So first I need to know if, in looking at the agenda, if there's any changes or additions to the agenda. Okay, so I need a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
And I need a second. Okay, Sue Gregson, and all in favor? It's unanimous. It's unanimous. It's a majority. Okay, so first thing is we have the presentation of new at-large board members. This year, we will be adding Amanda Albert, Mary Atkinson, Cynthia Smith, and Nell Wing. Are there any additions to this list? Okay. For executive officers, I will stay on as president. Savannah Sessions will come on as vice president. Gilson Rican will be treasurer, and Joe Ferrigno will be our secretary. I need to also ask, are there any additions to that list? Okay, so I'd like a motion to accept the slate of new at-large and executive officers. Oh, you have a question, Joe?
Well, I so move.
Okay.
But I'd also love if they're here to
Have them stand up.
say,
Okay, I will. After we accept, I will have everyone who's here can stand up. So we have a motion to accept this slate. Do I have a second? Okay, Beth? All in favor? Any opposed? Majority vote is in acceptance. Okay, so I know Nell is here. Amanda, please stand up. Amanda, Nell. Cynthia is not. Is Mary here? Yep. So these are our three new. Cynthia Smith couldn't be here tonight, so congratulations. Savannah is not here as well, but Gilson is here. Gilson, stand up. And Joe Ferrigno. Okay, and now I would like to introduce David Frum to present our motion to accept our fiscal year 24 budget. This budget has been fully vetted and unanimously accepted by the board, and we recommend approval for this annual meeting. The committees, the board members, and the director were all involved in developing this budget. David?
We've got two audiences, right? The public one and on
Right.
screen. So if I'm not looking at you, I'm trying to eyeball everybody, but thank you for being here. And thank goodness the rain stopped on us. I was here about an hour ago and thought I was gonna wash away. Okay, I'll be quiet. For those who haven't gone through a public meeting like this, an annual meeting, the intent for this, as you see, there's 5 minutes. I'm not going to cover the whole budget. What you just heard from Chris is probably the key element. Pretty much since late February, the board and the staff, our director in particular, have been working through every single line item. The joy that I have tonight is to report to you that we're going to present a budget for fiscal 24. We're in a fiscal year which runs July 1 through June 30th. We're proposing the acceptance of a budget that will strive to achieve a positive bottom line of about $2,200 for next year. Now, for those who want to know about that, if we were having this conversation 3 years ago, we were running at a significant loss. And in fact, this organization was having some real troubles from a financial standpoint. I am thrilled to tell you, this is the third year in a row that this organization will be presenting and carrying forward a successful positive budget. This year, the current year we're in is going to be a remarkably good year, and I'll speak to that in just a minute. But as opposed to going line item by line item, I'm going to highlight for you 5 or 6 of the key drivers of the budget and what got us to this place of a proposed budget of about $2,200 a year. Then I'll open it up for any questions, and then I will offer what I'm about to read to you as a motion. We'll seek a second, then we'll take a vote on that. So that as the introduction, as I mentioned, the budget predicts an overall net operating income for fiscal year, the coming fiscal year, of a positive $2,273. This continues our trend of operating with positive operating margins, and critically, it protects a board mandated requirement that we maintain at least 6 months of operating cash on hand. So we're not operating from paycheck to paycheck, if you will. And if you recall, 3 years ago, really at the mid of the pandemic, we were at a place where we literally were operating paycheck to paycheck. So the idea of presenting a budget with $2,200 bottom line seems pretty slim, but underneath that is 6 months of operating cash and reserves that help us weather any other storms that may come. Heaven forbid that we have another pandemic or other concerns like that, but from a board standpoint, this board has been adamant that we keep that reserve on hand. This budget protects that as we go forward. We're going to show at the end of this fiscal year, which is June 30th, we're going to show a very significant positive bottom line for the current year. A big part of that was because of one-time very large donation that we received this year that has allowed us to not only have a positive bottom line this year, but frankly, the majority of those funds, the board saw fit to move those dollars to our endowment fund. That endowment is a separate investment fund that we use for large strategic projects or large dollar investments that may hit the organization as we go forward. So we're not tapping into that daily stuff, daily operating stuff to get to deal with big issues. For example, we had a roof that failed on us. We've got an endowment that can help us do those things. The large gift we received this year will show as a very positive impact on the bottom line for this year, but that's been moved to the endowment to help us further those long-term strategic items. Also, the proposed 24 budget calls for an overall average 6% increase for library staff. That's in addition to increases of 3% and 5% over the last 2 years. So over 3 years, about a 14% overall increase for the staff. Proposed budget also continues our investment in our collection, which is our new director came on board a year ago. We ramped that up quite a bit. We carry that same amount forward in the fiscal 24 budget so that we can continue to add to that collection. And that's not just books, that's all materials that we have in the library. Further, the budget allows us to utilize up to 4% of our endowment that I just mentioned for operating costs that are deemed appropriate by the director and by the board of directors as we move forward. In other words, if there are real opportunities that present ourselves, we now are comfortable that our endowment is large enough that we can draw some monies from those endowment funds should a real opportunity present in the upcoming operating year. That's a bit of a change for us. If we were talking 3 years ago, we put a halt on spending the endowment down because frankly, we were spending the endowment to cover the operating losses we had. So now we're in a place, we've got a strong endowment and we've got a strong operation, so we can kind of do both, and it will be at the discretion of the director with support of the board to draw on those endowment funds as needed in the coming year. From an income standpoint, it's been a fabulous, frankly, a fabulous 3 years, but this last year we've done extremely well as it relates to our annual appeal, general donation. Golf tournament was off the charts successful this year. Arts and artisans grants have become a significant portion of our funding, and we expect each of those to continue as we go into the next fiscal year. All the other expenses we have for the library have been fully vetted by our director and by the various committees of the board, and then subsequently reported or discussed at the full board, of which, as you heard from Chris, the full board is suggesting and has recommended that we approve the budget that's in front of us. So that's the backdrop. From a Robert's Rule standpoint, I'm now going to read you a sentence. We will get a second to that. That'll open for any discussion and any questions. The motion that I'm offering to you is given the summary of the information I just provided you above, and with the full review and support of the CHML board and the director during a detailed multi-month budget process, I move that the attached proposed fiscal 24 budget be approved by those in attendance at the annual meeting. So again, from a process standpoint, if we can get a second to that, then I'll take any questions the group might have. Got a second from Alice. Are there any questions about the budget? I'm happy to go into any details, but I wanted to at least paint the larger picture for you, so we've got something to talk about. Hearing no questions, you get to call the question.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
It's hard to vote for a budget that we haven't seen.
So I do have a couple of drafts with me. Try to,
I mean, can you screen share it or?
Do you want me to,
Pass it
what I
around.
think I'll do is, yeah, why don't you pass it around?
Otherwise, we're just voting that.
Yeah,
we agree
why
with
don't-
The board on what we haven't seen. So
Right.
It's a little weird.
Why don't I move on
2 or 3 of them.
to do something else, and we'll come back for this vote, okay? We have the motion, we have the second, and we'll come back, okay?
Perfect.
One of the things, here you go, David, this is your stuff. I'll just give you this. The thought occurred to me as well, we do have a number of outgoing members, but we have 6 members that are staying. So in addition to the 4 people who you met for the executive slate, we also have Kurt Schreiber is here. Kurt, you want to stand up or wave, whatever, just so people can see you? Kurt is here. And who else am I? Let's see, Savannah, Barbara is, she's also continuing. So it'll be myself, Gilson, Joe Ferrigno, Savannah Sessions, Kurt, and Barbara Collins are the 6 current board members who will go for next year. So I'm going to go forward and do thank yous to the outgoing members, so that you guys can have a little chance to look over the budget, and then we'll go from there. So Gilson, you're going to come up and help me. Now I'm going to read a name, and I'll have you guys come up once we do our thank you. David Frum. There once was a library treasure called Dave, whose financial expertise he gave. Because those numbers and columns he craved, he balanced the annual library budget. Not once did he have to judge it nor fudge it, and opened up the process to include all facets. With dedication, he served longer on the trustee board to organize and set the course for a legal reward. His calculator became a mighty and effective sword. He strengthened our nonprofit foundation with a little frustration and a lot of libation. He humbly produced a balanced budget with elation. His quarterly reports enabled the trustees to behave, so we say thanks and farewell with a wave to the man we fondly call Dave. With this. Hold the bottom because there's a thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, well, it probably relates to this, I think.
Hey, Chris.
Andrea Moss.
Hey, Chris.
There once was a library. Oop, sorry. There once was a library board trust.
Chris, have them come over to the podium when they pick it up. Otherwise, we can't see them.
Oh, okay, sorry. Andrea, there once was a library board trustee called Andrea, whose name does not rhyme with many words area. She spent tons of hours volunteering, serving, and distributing and contributing. The talents she sent us were forever over distributing. And there still is no fitting word to rhyme with Andrea. She was active with so many committees. Her response was always, I can do that with ease. She learned about nonprofits and the importance of regulation and followed them up with ongoing information. Her efforts worked to improve the library with glee. Andrea's creative talents designed the Freiburg Fair display so that the 2021 Blue Ribbon Prize came our way. Her careful recordings of board meetings and every event helped with the executive committee's decision to be sent. She did things with a fun, fulfilling sense of fair play. No one brought more delicious goodies to eat than Andrea. Her recipes included nutritious and decadent aromaria. Mindful of others' needs and situations, she considered for alternative populations. She prevented hunger and hysteria. There is no way anyone can fill her shoes. She paid and overpaid her dues. Her spirit lives on in her generous deeds that help the library meet its community needs. Andrea, thank you, and please stay by to give us more cheerful news. That's it. Come on up. You have to come by to, there we go. There she is.
Thanks, Chris. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Hold the bottom.
Yeah.
Here, and you,
Thank you.
and you get your little poem. Beth. There once was a board lady called Beth, who served with enthusiastic breath. She organized many an interesting program with speakers and events so glam and was never out of her depth. Her smile is sweet and contagious, her recruiting success of new members outrageous. Beth's monthly Zoom authors series are popular. For many patrons, they serve as a top library draw that provide to be inviting and advantageous. Beth enjoys celebrating holidays with jolly activities that give us a happy days. So she ran the holiday tree lighting event that just showed how important it meant. The Mrs. and Mr. C, carolers and families with praise. A serious and committed member of the team, Beth showed insightful vision and dream. She was thoughtful and kind, displayed a respectful mind, friend, worker, creator, and full of steam. She has served her time yet, promises to stay. From the library she will not far astray. Beth survived its challenges with balance and grace and recognized it as an important community base. So we say a warm thanks as she continues to do what she may. Come wave hello to everybody. Hey. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Oh, my. Oh, my goodness.
Are the rest of you like shaking in your shoes to figure out what we're going to say? Alice. There once was a library board leader named Alice who managed the golf tournament twice, completely gratis, because her practical approach showed no malice. Her attention to detail for the building and grounds provided energy in leaps and bounds. She gave so many hours all week around. She took away the trash and shoveled the snow. She made sure all the lights were aglow, so the patrons were safe to come and to go. She smiled and always said yes when asked to help correct a mess. Alice got the job done by leading with finesse. On the selection committee for a new director, Alice knew just what the job would be for. And with Jen, she happily got even more. We will miss Alice and her boundless enthusiasm. She leaves us with a huge and empty chasm, yet we will remember her with a fond and happy spasm. I'm going to tell you later.
Thank you. Hi, guys.
Yeah, there she is.
Thank you.
All right, Sue Gregson, there she is right there. There once was a CHML trustee named Sue who was friendly, honest, and true. She participated quietly and knew just what to do. She cheerfully said yes to help at events. She baked, she gardened, she painted, she found old documents, to mention a few chores she did without laments. Sue's original painted signs were beautiful and creative. Her 200th year anniversary cake was connotative, and she encouraged new board members not to be evasive. She served on committees by adding sage advice. Her local knowledge proved a helpful device. Her down-to-earth solutions worked well more than twice. So we say a heartfelt thank you to Sue, who inspired the board members with her glue, and wish her well in whatever next she will do. Okay.
You.
Hello,
Say hello.
everybody. Yay. And last, Tim Sear, who actually is at the zoning meeting tonight. There once was a board trustee named Tim who volunteered often with life and limb. The grounds maintenance committee was one of his choices to support and improve the library devices. He made sure all was tight and trim. He believed in being proactive in planning. Effective research, Tim was carefully scanning. He hoisted up a new American flag. Its public meaning never once did it snag, and his building ideas were cleverly enchanting. Tim was there to help with golf on the green. He maneuvered like a mechanical machine. He set up, he advertised, and brought in a team, and encouraged other board members with effective steam. Tim sponsored the library in many a scene. His term has ended, but not his commitment. His accomplishments will linger with enrichment. Tim will stay present to support and plan. He's now part of the worker volunteer clan, and the library will prosper with his suggestions and equipment. And Tim, as I said, couldn't be here tonight, but we thank you. And I will tell you that all those beautiful moments of prose are because of Barbara Collins. She's the one who put all of that together. She did a nice job. So back to budget. Everyone have a chance. David, do you want to come up? Do you have some questions? Anybody have questions?
We've got copies floating around if there are any questions.
Your stuff is behind you if you
Yep.
need. Any questions, anybody? Okay, so
Thanks for asking for the detail.
Yeah.
No, I know what I'm,
I appreciate that.
and I am wildly impressed with the gifts to the library this year, the donations for the. fantastic.
It's.
we were too.
It's been a wonderful.
We have been so thankful. We really have. So, okay, so we have a motion that was presented by David. It was seconded by Alice. So all in favor of accepting the budget? Any opposed? Majority vote is in the positive. Okay, before we get to our speaker, Rose, I have two more people to thank. Another outgoing person. This person has been with us for so many years. And she's really been in various positions. And so, as you know, may know, our dear friend Julie Frum and her husband are moving to Savannah. And Julie has worn many hats at the library, including board member, volunteer, and head of the used book area. She was also a board member and one of the initial people that started the Friends group, along with others that are here tonight. And she was also an interim director at the library when we needed someone to jump in and fill that position for us. So Julie, we'll miss you, we'll miss your smile, and we wish you well in all your new endeavors. Come on up. I do have a card for you somewhere, no? Pick a card. Go get you. There you go. Come in here so we can say goodbye. Hello and goodbye to everyone.
We're around till the end of the summer.
Thank you.
Very thoughtful.
Okay, and now I am going to, it's going to be time for us to adjourn the formal part of our meeting. And I need a motion to adjourn this. Can someone make a motion to adjourn the meeting? Okay, so move, David. I need a second. Okay. And all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so now we move on to a very special portion of our program. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight, Rose Marasco. Rose is a prolific photographer, author, award-winning educator. She has had significant solo museum shows at major US museums and overseas. Her retrospective index originated at the Portland Museum of Art in 2015 and was reviewed in the New York Times, the Boston Globe, Down East Magazine, and numerous other publications in Maine and New England. She is a distinguished professor emerita at the University of Southern Maine. In 1979, she initiated and secured accreditation for the photography curriculum at USM, where she has taught for 35 years. Currently, she serves as a faculty mentor, and member, and a visiting artist at several MFA programs at the Maine College of Art and Design, New England College in New Hampshire, and Lesley University in Massachusetts. Her forthcoming book is entitled At Home, was inspired by the 1837 Greek revival home she purchased at auction in 2003. Please let's give Rose a warm welcome.
Let's go. I'm starting to take it in. The pandemic helped, but it's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Here, I'm gonna put it right on this table so everybody can see it.
Hold it up in front of the camera. No.
Oh, that's right,
yeah.
sorry. I'm still getting used to this Zoom.
I may want to show a few
Pictures out of it? Okay,
here.
sure, so we'll leave it
But
right there
I
for you.
now took the paper out of the place where I wanted to show you. Oh, here they are. So, these are 3 photographs I've made of kittens in my neighbor's backyard when I was 6 years old. I mean, they're pretty good photographs. But the fact that I was 6 years old still amazes me. My mother and father had a little brown camera. Possibly some of you would know.
Yeah.
And I remember looking out the side window, showed them to the screen.
I was just gonna say, I'll show them, you talk about them, and I'll show the
I
people
remember,
online.
seeing them and then running to grab my parents' camera.
How well they can
Yes,
see.
Chris, we can't hear her.
Oh, yeah, she's gonna have to be behind me.
Oh, I see. All right.
Sorry.
I'll try to behave, I've been out of the classroom for
Do you want me to leave this here?
maybe 7 or 8 years.
I'll leave it here.
I forgot. That's a big deal. Anyway, so well, that impulse to go take a picture, I guess, started quite young for me. In fact, in the book I write too, my mother actually worked. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah.
My mother worked at Cunningham Photo Labs, it was called. And so she was making these, they called them bantam prints with the little scalloped edges, and then they go into a book. And photo lab work, like other fine work that required details, photo labs often hired women to print because they would sit there all day and do it, get the job done, be able to do it. And so that's what my mother did before she got pregnant. But she neglected to tell me this for quite a while. She was actually pregnant for me while she was working in this photo lab. So I put that in the book because I'm like, Ma, you didn't tell me you were there working. And if those of you that have been in a photo lab remember the smell. And so who knows, maybe that's what set the course for my life. In any case, I did love and still do love taking photographs. Of course, in our lifetime, we've seen all of that change so dramatically, you know, and I had to shift a lot of things about teaching and such. But the way that people thought that digital was going to go, which was like this kind of weird way of shoving every odd thing together, you know, kind of more grotesque, if you will. Oh, because you could do this or that, you know. And I mean, some of the advertising stuff was like that, but it really didn't go that way. meaning that didn't become the predominant thing. People were, I guess, energized to think that could happen, you know. I've also seen, so that's one thing. I mean, I guess I do want to ask if anybody has a camera in this room. Okay, a couple. That's a lot, actually. So, because now our phones, or our devices, as I like to call it, you know, have everything. And we have to thank Steve Jobs, I think, for the decent camera, because he thought that was critical. Oh, do you want me to stop talking? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. All right, I'm sorry. I know this is, I'm rusty, I guess, but I have stories. Okay, I do want to say one other thing about George Eastman and Steve Jobs. There's a connection there. Anybody know what it is? Okay. It's not a well-known fact. Eastman Kodak Company invented digital photography. So if you look it up, you'll see a device that looks like a slide projector with some gizmos and boards attached to it. And you think, now, why would they do that? Because selling film like mad for, you know, decades. I went to graduate school at Rochester, not at RIT, at a very opposite of that, very theory-based, very intellectual place called the Visual Studies Workshop. So we had those two things going on. But the reason why I say that the Eastman House was interested in digital is because George Eastman invented amateur photography. So before him, we had an ordinary person could not photograph. And so it was the outreach, you know, the conclusion of that, if you will, which actually knocked them out of business, more or less. They do some things, but so because George Eastman invented this Kodak Model 1, as you may know. Has anybody ever been to the George Eastman House Museum? Yeah, really a special place. If you ever get anywhere near there, it's phenomenal. I mean, every camera ever invented. And the first kind of movie things where you stand there and you go like that. And it's just a gorgeous building and a history of the whole idea of imagery. He was a very generous person in Rochester, gave a lot of money away to symphonies, to the University of Rochester, many places. So photography's gone from, I've seen it gone from, you know, people used to be disappointed when my mother told them I was an artist or in the arts. They'd ask me what I was painting. And then when I said, oh, I'm a photographer, they would say, oh, like that, you know, be like disappointed. And of course, there weren't many galleries and museums were really not interested in them. So that is, everything's changed, you know, and who knows what will happen, you know. I'm fortunate to have some young friends in my neighborhood who come over and see me, and they're mostly they're writers, you know, and we talk about like what the future would be like for them. Who knows? I mean, it's not going to stay like this either. So everything's transitioning. Okay, so let's see what we do now is I think I'm gonna share screen.
So
Oh, you have my website one and the other one?
I have both of them.
Okay, let's do the website one. I'm just
Okay.
having a feeling. I
Yeah.
kind of do go on impulse. I think it's here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just down to.
And the part
then you
moving
just-
for me.
As long as you've got the mouse in this, them two fingers.
Okay. 2 fingers.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a problem with that hand. Okay, I'll do this. So I'm in a private section of my website, which I can give you the address later. And it kind of helped me organize the main point of my book about my style of photography, if you will. So it starts with a group called Circles. And I'll show you one. So I was living temporarily on Peaks Island in Maine after a breakup, frankly, and stayed in the house a little while and then got sick of that, sold it. And a colleague of mine was renting his place on Peaks Island. So a winter rental. And I needed a change, so I left at that. When I got out there, I had been making work all under this heading of domestic objects. And there's some catalogs in the gold cover. You can see those on my website too. So anything to do with domestic objects. So I started collecting these pottery shards down at the beach. Why not? They were there. I don't know what happens in Casco Bay, but I think people throw plates out. I mean, there's so much, pottery. I thought, what's going on here? Maybe they get drunk. I do know this because I didn't know, like when you get into when you get into the bay, as soon as the boat leaves, you can you can drink alcohol. So it's like, I didn't know this. So we would just start and then I'd hear everybody's popping their beer can. I'm thinking, but okay, so I collected this and I put it in the shape of a plate. It's on a green drawing board that was my colleague's whose house I rented. And because I didn't have a studio, I brought the whole board outdoors underneath pine tree. And I kind of like that. Okay. So I did that. And then at the time I was shooting 4x5-inch transparency film, which I dropped off at the processor on my way to school. And then I'd pick it up at the end or maybe the next day, depending on there. So I saw it and I thought, okay, I think I'll do another plate. So I raid the cupboards and I find a few plates that I like. And then I bring those out into the landscape, drop off the film again. Those are really bad. It just looks like, what's this plate doing on the sand? So I thought, okay, well, I don't know. I thought I had a little thing going on here, So I'm talking about the creative process and how it works and how it does it. And I've been very kind to myself. And this is basically what you have to teach when you're teaching whatever your medium is. I mean, you're trying to reach students to find their creative spark and how to nurture that spark and, stay with it like up and down. So I got very fascinated by that and being able to do that and helping them find like the real thing. It's there because they know too, but sometimes people are a little bit afraid of that too. Anyway, so I tried those 2 plates, nothing happened. For some reason, I had kept this board with the pottery shards. I had kept it out on top of a bookcase. In other words, I didn't disturb it. And I looked over it one day and I thought, oh, it's a circle. And I thought, okay, I'll make another circle. And there they started. So more complete. The brown one with the bottoms and sort of the tops. when I was young, my mom, we would go to a drugstore or someplace where they had the candy out front. She would always grab lifesavers for us. So I had that memory. And one day I just grabbed a roll for myself. And oops. Sort of not moving now.
Get the mouse back into this.
Sorry.
Need to get the mouse back into the.
Oh, okay. Oops, there we go. Thank you. The blue one was after 9/11, where this phrase pins and needles kept coming into my head. And this is a small deck of old maid cards that I bought somewhere. I put her in the middle. The important little technical thing that happened here is I started using Xerox on acetate on the yellow one. So I made a copy of a pattern, brought it down to what was then Kinko's, I guess, and had it printed on acetate. And then I stood that up, and sunlight going through it made the image on top. And oops. Let's see, how do I get rid of that?
Just click where you
Just
click
click
in.
where you want.
Push down on the.
Okay, oops.
Very really. Whoops.
Oh, well. That was another thing. Okay. Anyway, here's more. This one was spinning. This I cut. If you look closely, you'll see the, what do they call that? A protractor? Yes, so I had one where you could cut with it too. You take the lead out, and there's another little insert that you put in with the blade. So I cut that out. So that circle's really just about this big. Looks better there than here. It's very pale here. And then the piece that was left over, I let the sun go through. And so it's the same piece that does that. Oh, now I'm hitting them. Okay, it's a spinning pot lid. My friend Looney came down from Islesboro with her beautiful eggs, variety of. That's two pieces of chain, the same length, a little fence that I bought. I guess they use it for like a Dow house or something, a hobby store. So it's like raiding stores, and this plate is very, very small. It's only about this big. So this is a true series of works, meaning that they're all circles. The important thing for me was that it started this way of working with projections, which I've continued to do to this day. This is pins and needles. This was after 9/11 there. When I went into a, oops, we're going back. I went into a, I'm not sure, I'm not so good at this. We've seen all those.
Yeah.
That may be the last one. Yeah. No, there's another one.
Go back. Use the arrow keys. Make it easier for you.
That one with the blue plate, I was thinking of the blue plate special. So I do, because we do, when we look at a photograph, we bring our associations to it. If it's our family photographs, we bring the associations of the people, but photographs, they signal something, So anyway, I just decided to use my blue plate, but at the last minute, I turned it over. I had it face up and I turned it over. And I think this is the last one. You can you can see it in the print, but that's a little teeny candy. It's the world. It's a globe. And that's a thing that you put your pot in so that it doesn't mar your furniture. Okay, so these are not like normal photographs out on the street, although I've done a fair amount of that. Oops. I don't want it to do that, but it keeps the, what do I hit when it does that? Escape?
Escape.
Okay. Then to tie this into the house, it says in 2003, I bought the house. I bought it actually on auction. And that was a strange, scary, and wonderful thing because I got it for pretty cheap. And now it's worth $1 zillion in Portland, Maine. So it needed everything, but it was not wrecked. So it was kind of like that. It had wallpaper. It didn't have really great heat. Some rooms never had furnace. One room had paneling, but the beauty of it was still, you could still see it. Oops. Okay. So I just do want to go back to that. Yeah. So, so I got this idea to cut out women's faces from magazines. And I matched it with some of the imagery that this was on the little TV there in the apartment. It says Battle Iraq. These photographs are 46 inches high. So they're big. So you can, when a photograph is big, you can almost kind of walk into it. Feels like you're there, so to speak. And this is Bet from the L Word, lesbian soap opera, made history. So I put those two women together like that. Just a little thing. Oops. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing here. That's a poster of Cindy Sherman that was in my classroom for a long time. Okay. This is what was his name? That Italian mafia thing that was on TV, very popular. Sopranos, yeah. So, oh yeah, so Tony Soprano going to the therapist's office. They put him on the cover of the New Yorker, the last run of that feature. And this is Ellen DeGeneres became the cover girl. And Nefertiti, I put Nefertiti eyes in there. And Hillary Clinton, when she was thinking of running, and in the big picture, you can see it. That's a suffragette poster that I ordered from the Women's Museum. And Frida Kahlo, who's sometimes cross-dressed, and then a cross-dresser in a magazine. And this is the last one, and this is the one they used as the cover of the book because it made a nice wraparound. Oops. Now moving down was the other gizmo. Okay. Well, let's see. It's got to be two.
2 fingers.
Doesn't like me. There we go. Okay. So, after my retrospective ended at the PMA, one of the things I think is important to share is to people don't know how art gets made and how would you? Because all we see is the result. Okay, so I like to now talk about how it gets made, as I have been. So while my retrospective was up at the Portland Museum of Art, that was truly an amazing gift to have accomplished that. And I have 35 years of students here. And I taught for 5 years where I grew up in central New York, Utica, New York. So I had a lot of people coming by, and I had a banner. I live about 2 blocks from the museum. So after a while, I thought, this is all really great, but I got to get out of here. I just felt like I needed to leave. They extended the show. I couldn't go anywhere without I know it sounds crazy, but so a photographer who I didn't know, but I called him up. He was born in Japan. He was bringing a group to Japan. So I called him up because I wanted to make sure that not everybody was 20 basically. And there was a range of ages. I was the oldest person, but they were very sweet to me. There was 2 other photo teachers in the mix. So when I went to Japan, I didn't expect to make anything. I think we were there for 10 days and I stayed a little longer because they weren't going to Kyoto. And I thought I have to go there because who knows if I'm ever going back. So I stayed a little bit longer. And while I can't understand nor speak Japanese, they're so wonderful. People themselves are so kind, and I felt okay by myself. In fact, I did have a little translating thing on my phone, but when I was in a cab, it would go out and be like, anyway. So the photographs that I liked there the most that I made, because everything. I never go away in photographs. So, but what I did like the most was the photographs I made of nature. And so I thought, okay, nature. I live in Maine. I guess I'll go for a walk. So, so I did, and I started making. I should have brought those. I have a stack of like 4x6s that I make darkroom prints of, just because I was in that mood. And then I had all these objects that I found in the house. This is one of them. And I had put them all away. I made a record of them. I didn't know what to do. I researched who lived in the house. I had names of those people. I thought I was going to do like a timeline because the house was built in 1837 and photography invention 1839. So I liked that coupling of that meaning. And also I know who built the house, a man named Abel Grover. And I thought Abel was right here when he heard about I'm making it up, but he could have been when he heard about the invention of photography, And, thinking of because I am a photographer and taught all these years, all the massive changes now that we've experienced. And it's really not that long a time frame. Anyway, so I thought, okay, nature, again, I live in Maine, I'll go for a walk. I had these pictures. And then one day I went up into the closet in the attic and I had to get something. And I looked over at that trunk where I had put all the objects. And I thought, yeah, I really should do something. So I opened it up and I brought a few of them downstairs. And then literally, I don't know how much time went by, but not too much. I got this idea to put this. I had photographed the objects that I found just on a white background. So I had them all on my computer. And so then I scanned the Freeport Cove, and then I imported the plate lip into it. And when I did that, I thought, okay, I'm back in the house project, like it was my way in. So sometimes we have to go far away to come back, I guess. Oops, no. Thank you. So, on your right are, so then what else was I gonna do with landscapes? I don't know. So I thought, well, I picked up I kept making these little photographs, but I wanted to incorporate the house items now. And one day this is the first one, I got this idea to mimic, and they're called mimics, my photograph with objects I found in the house. And so I made these, the objects, on the scanner. So is that a photograph? Yeah, I say yeah, but there's no camera involved. Okay. If I want to just do the two again, push it. You have magic, yeah. Okay.
No, I can-
Oh, that went way far. Yeah, there's. Okay. Okay, yeah. Okay, just, some wallpaper. That was the workman told me that was a whip for a horse for a child. Just about this long. It's got a little, I'm not a horse. I know nothing about horses. It's got a little whistle on the end and then this little frayed part. So, in order to make these, so because that background of the landscape one, by choice, those of you that photographed old school will know that your choice of your f-stop gives you both the correct exposure and it controls how much is in focus depth of field wise. So I opted for a shallow depth of field. That's why it's fuzzy in the background, so that these pieces of the tree will stand out. And then in the one with the clothespins, these are all found in the house. On top of that, I had a very large photograph that I made at Gilson Farm, where I one day took a walk there and I ended up printing 8 of them, 8 or 9, I think, out of the 12 as huge mural prints. And I wanted it to feel like a walk where sometimes you look down and you see something, or sometimes, like in this case, you look up and it's kind of blurry. And so I use that on top of the clothespins. Now I have a cat, so that makes like setting up things like this a little challenging. And we're both seniors now, as I tell her, so we're much sleepier than we used to be, but she would always pop up. All of these hairpins and straight pins and one, I think it's one button in a little thing. Those were all found in the floorboards of a room on the 3rd floor. This one I had to do again because I didn't like it. Sometimes when we get going, I was happy when I was doing these. And once they started, I thought, okay, like I found something new and kind of crazy and to me exciting. And so I had made a pair for the landscape one. But I kept looking at it. It was on my desk because I was just making little prints of these. And then one day I said, yeah, that sucks. It's got to go. You know, so I made a big stew that I could eat for like several days. And I just went back into it. And this one's much better, believe me. The other thing that I started doing actually with this one of the things about this one too, is you see how it's dark and light, I mean, distinct areas. I figured out that I could trace my negative. I have a light box on tracing paper and then turn it over. Because when you lay things on the scanner, I didn't even realize this at first, but I kept moving things over until they matched. But really it flips it left to right axis. So you have to make it backwards basically. And if I didn't know that when I started, but then I started tracing my negative just on the light box on tracing paper, just the darks and lights basically. And then I flipped it over. So it made putting all these little items on the scanner a lot easier than trying to do it backwards. And then this is the last one, which I took some liberties with, but I knew it was and because I did so, I knew it was the last one. Because underneath all that, these are pieces of wallpaper that were hidden under light switches or other things that had never faded. I mean, there was different wallpaper there. And so underneath all the wallpaper is a photograph of mine that was just kind of hanging out in the dark room. And here I show you my little sketches that I made. To indicate, you know, where the lights and shadows are and just about how much, this one, you know, spatially. So one of the things I came to understand through teaching and my own work, I mean, they're hardly separate for me because everything I learned came from those two things. So, but I would give students an assignment, seniors. They would take a long time. I would get frustrated. So it's, you know, one semester, 15 weeks. It's not that long, you know, and so they'd go out and shoot. Every week they had to bring in something, new work. But, oh, well, you know, they went to a birthday party or, oh, well, they went to a beach. And it's kind of never happening. And I want them to do a final project and they have to write an artist statement about it. And so I came up with this 3-part assignment for them. And I refined it. So I'll tell you the refined version, which is me selecting words, topics, if you will. And then I would turn it into a game. If somebody had a hat on, I'd use the hat or a box, anything nearby. So they had to actually reach in and, you know, pull up one piece of paper. And it could be that they got, a cup and saucer, or a face, or a shirt, or, well, I'll keep those 3. Some more will come to me. So then they had to go out and shoot it the first time for the subject matter that it was. So when one looked at the picture, it had to read as a shirt, but try to make your best image of a shirt. I also showed them photographers' works who was predominantly subject matter. There's some great photographers. We don't see this kind of work anymore too much because there aren't the magazines like Life and Look magazine, National Geographic, all subject matter. That was, you know, how photography came into our homes. Now we have other means of doing that. You didn't see too much metaphor because I don't know if the US is very metaphoric. You did in other countries, but I always liked it, metaphors. So, but when I was picking, you know, they could, the next week they had to do the metaphor with the same topic. Okay. And the third week they had to do what I called invention. So they could do whatever they wanted with that. So it's just trying on a mode. So it's it's artificial to do that, but when you're learning, it's a good experience because you find out, what you like. So in my case here, combining all three of these things is the goal. Although for the students, they didn't exactly even, know what mode they wanted to be in, but they would get there. So they'd select one of these things, and then I'd have them photograph for the rest of the semester in this trajectory. So now I've been going to, since I retired, I've been going to several residencies. This is in the show at UNE, and it's these two end pieces. It's called My Art Show, and it's actually artwork that I found in the closet at a artist residency. So all these pieces of artwork, that black and white sketch, that little sketch of color, all these are rejected or left by the former residents. So I started out with nature on the canvas, and I got bored right away. But the nature there is gorgeous, but big leaves. I was putting like really beautiful pieces of nature on the back of the canvas. In other words, the metaphor saying, hey, this is art, or this is decent to look at. And then I just flipped it because I was bored. And I got these crazy leftover things that nobody wanted. And this piece has been a big hit. And then this is also from residencies, Finland and Virginia. Virginia Center for the Creative Arts is across the highway from Sweetbriar College, so really in the country there. And Finland was also. Pieces of fabric and other items that I found on flea markets. And then in Finland, using an overhead projector, which I did do for some of these, of course, because I'm projecting actual pieces of lace into the room. But then what happened in Finland was the strangest thing, because I put the projector down, like the one on the left here. That's my room, but we had a desk. Everybody had a desk. So I put the projector down. It wasn't plugged in even. And suddenly I saw the outside on the projector base, the overhead projector. Do you guys remember that? It's got like all right. So then I took a white piece of paper and I just put it down so I could see it. And I made these, the only camera I could fit in there was my iPhone. So, so I took that with the iPhone, and then I thought, well, I was afraid to move it because I thought it just happened to be, because it's got like a prism and a mirror and then down. And I thought, probably only going to happen there. But then no, so I started moving it around and it just happened. So I made this little sweet series here that looks like it was something from, the beginnings of photography, basically. And then the easel is kind of one day I've been to the Virginia Center for Photography twice, but this was the first time. And when I walked into the studio, they have a dark room there, but then there's a studio room that goes to the photographer who comes. And not everybody uses the dark room, but I did a little bit. But when I walked into the room, they had an easel in there, and I thought, come on, you baiting me. So I decided to make this series called The Easel. So I turned it into art. And that, the curator loved the first one. That's the invite for the show. So just simple things from, they would drive us into, it's a very small town, either a grocery store or a little, like a flea market-y kind of place. So I would go when the group went, and just kind of scour around and see what I could find. This, the yellow there that's so blurry, that was a letter form thing that you could trace, but it was the Yiddish language. And I thought, well, I don't want that. That doesn't, I don't want to, you know, that does, the meaning of that was not. So I made a long exposure and moved it. So you can't really tell what it is. And then also in Virginia, they had this barn that had been, had a partial mural in it that was painted, somewhat poorly painted, but it was enough for me to start to do my thing. And it was like a perfect background for, like, really set the stage for all these activities that I did. So this is a very tiny stick. It's like that. It's just matters where you put it. So, you know, by this time I'm deeply into making something to be photographed, right? In fact, every day on the walk down, I would just pick up one piece of nature and try to use that. So most of this work isn't shown yet, so you're getting a little peek. But if you do go into Portland and you want to go to UNE, you'll see some of the earlier, some of the pieces. Oh, good. I'm glad you're laughing. Crazy, right? Well, you know what I used to say in class? Crazy good or crazy crazy? Crazy good. You want crazy good. Oh, we went to the supermarket and I thought, okay, what can I get? I went to that little section, combs, you know, anything. See all those boards, I piled them up.
This is all part of that same mural?
Yeah, I went twice. So the first time I did the horizontals, although the very first one was vertical, and it took so long for the film to come back that I forgot. And so then I started doing horizontals. So when I got the film back, I thought, oh, damn, I was doing, because I like series. So then when I went back the second time, I did the verticals, but I already have one. But this one with the mattress and that's just a little piece of plastic. And when I saw the transparency, because I shoot transparency film, I was so baffled by that picture because spatially it's so strange, you know. And I thought, what's that? Like I didn't kind of remember about the mattress. You guys have any questions about these or? Yeah.
What's the size of those photographs?
These?
Mhm.
I haven't made these yet. Let's see, did I show any of these? I don't think so, but I'm gonna make them quite big. I have some 30 by 40s in the show at UNE. So I think they need to be big because they're like right in front. 30 by 40 is.
What's behind you? There's
Sorry?
a painting behind you.
Oh, yeah. No, it's bigger than that. Yeah. I want to know what's the deal with the bronze? I don't know what goes on and,
Behind you.
no, I know. Oops,
Joe, were you asking about the title?
sorry.
About the size.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I misheard.
These I'm nixing, but I do have curtain nature. This is actually the same nature that was in some of the projections, but I kept these curtain utensils.
Oh.
Yeah, kind of scary, right? I wonder if this could play. This is very short. Okay. So, I grew up in Utica and I would always, as soon as I could, I would go to New York City to see art. So I would take the train to do that. And first I went with my girlfriend's mother and my own mother sometimes. And then I started going on my own. And, so I went on a family visit in 2020. And I decided to stay between Christmas and New Year's and go down to New York, like on the old route that I did on Amtrak. And or maybe somebody gave me a ride down because I was only doing one train ride and it was definitely on the way back. And so it was getting closer to New Year's. So the seats, when I got on, I had thought I wanted to photograph out the window with the iPhone and there were no window seats. And so I was anxious, but I sat down on the end and but I only wanted it from Albany because that's the part that's it's like ingrained in me or imprinted, as they say, where you start to see the Mohawk River that goes into Utica. So I made 135 or so photographs with my iPhone. Oh, because the woman who was next to me, she got off at Hudson. And I so I scooted over. Oops. Oh, it's loading. Yeah. So it's just very fast.
You feel like you're on the train.
That's right.
Wow.
And I was so excited, like everything looked really interesting. You know, well, the screen is gorgeous, right? Because it's backlit. So that was that. And then I also just made a little physical thing with, like, if they were timed close together, I put them close, but if they were more singular, I put them as single images. So you could see how that last roll is like me. Yeah.
You might want to move into questions.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
No, don't.
But this will end. This happened. This is the last thing, and everything's situational. So I was shooting color film in my neighborhood with borders, because I like borders. I'm fairly traditional, in fact, in that way. So just color print film, and then shot one roll, and then the pandemic happened. The first roll, I thought, okay, I kind of like it. Like I like these shadows enough to do it. And then months went by, and a former student picked up the film. No, she brought it there for me, and the guy from the photo store actually threw it on my porch, just like everything else that came that way. And I thanked him for it, and I madly opened up the thing because I hadn't seen anything for a while, and they forgot the borders. And I thought, oh, and then I immediately got this idea, which you see here, to put them together. So I made my little maquettes. They're just taped together, And it took me actually a long time. This was actually the same picture. They made two of those. Maybe the phone rang or something, I don't know. Or. And so I continued these. And have made quite a few more of these. I'm interested in spatial ideas, I guess, so it kind of comes naturally to me. Oops. Okay, we're gonna stop. I believe that is the last one, or it's close. Okay.
So we will also let people know who are online, if you have a question, I believe you can do a raised hand. Where's that?
Yeah,
Oh,
we-
right. Okay, if she could do a raised hand, then you can click on
Yeah.
them and they can ask some questions as well.
Okay,
All right.
how about here? Anyone have a question? Yes, please.
Another question. So when you make those large photographs, are the smaller studies transparencies that get enlarged through light the same way onto photographic paper, or what's the process when you say you make?
No, I'm printing digitally now. Yeah, it's almost impossible to print any other way. Yeah.
Can we ask if you can repeat the questions? We can't hear the audience.
Okay, that question was about, am I printing traditionally or digitally? And I'm printing digitally now because that's all we can do really. And it's gotten quite better. It wasn't good in the beginning, but it's good now. Yes.
If you had to had a student who came to you and said, I'm really interested in this, but I don't really know if I have talent in photography, what would you say to them?
Did you guys hear that?
No,
Okay. The question was, what would I say to a student who said they were interested in photography, but they didn't know if they had talent or not? So, I would say, just go out and shoot. And, wait till you hear your heartbeat though. So you have to have a connection. Nobody knows what that is. I mean, I just showed you my recent sort of passion, if you will. But I've done a lot of projects. So if you go on my website, you'll see more and more and more. But in all cases, I was completely present with what I was doing. So you have to find that, So I did see a decline in getting there when digital arrived on the scene, because they just, film cost money and you got so much, so many. Okay, 35 millimeter, you could get 36 or 24. But if you started shooting 2 1/4 or more, it's expensive and you only got 12 or you got one at a time with 4x5. So people spent more time looking, moving, doing, and then they got really sloppy. I let them use digital in advance, but it's all like, oh yeah, look at it later, kind of. That can't happen like that. You have to be present, really present. So, yes.
Question for you. I was fascinated by your comments on Eastman Kodak.
Mm.
What do you see as the future now in photography given digital? I mean, you have a wonderful perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you tell younger people? How do you see it evolving from your own?
Geez, I didn't really know what was going to happen. Well, what they thought was going to happen, there were some very corny and awful things that happened in the beginning of digital. Like I remember Hillary Clinton was put on a motorcycle for Mad Magazine with some other weird thing, like all that composite crap that seemed like, oh, everybody's going to be doing this, well, that didn't happen. That really didn't happen. I wish I knew where it was going. I mean, this is really sticking for a while. You know, will there be a whole other way to photograph? Probably, because everything else has changed. I have a small booklet that lists every photo process that's ever been around, and there's a lot of them. Something like 70 or 80, but they, you know, when it was chemicals, all the chemicals that were. Oh, I love David Hockney, painter, because he calls all of photography before digital chemical photography. And I thought, oh, that's really smart. So now we have digital photography. Maybe we'll have mind thought photography. AI. Yeah, right. Yeah, look what AI is doing. I'm sort of fascinated by that. We have a question in the
Chat from Zoe.
oops, disappeared.
Hit the chat.
Yeah.
Click on the chat. at the
Click-
bottom.
Oh.
Little chat thing on the bottom.
What projections are the most, with the projections, are they post-production or in real time? Is it an overlay? Nothing I do is post-projection. Everything exists. That's the second time I got this question. I got one at the opening. So see, it's training, it's fooling us, like all this technology.
Click on that.
Yeah. The technology is making us think that everything's fake, you know, so people have a hard time seeing what I'm doing as real. I mean, you remember the projections in my home, like that started it, like nothing's real, but everything exists as a photograph. Because a photograph just sees everything that you put in front of it. So. But thank you for that question. I don't know whose question it was.
Is, Zoe Trout.
Okay, Zoe.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how you, given that you have an interest, you have an idea,
Mhm.
and then you make images of, several. Can you talk about how you think about sequencing them or grouping them? Because
Mhm.
the pairings, the way that you have presented your work is
Mhm.
so compelling. I just
Thank
wonder
you.
How that comes about. Question for that.
Yeah. The question was about how do I pair my work or have an extended series? How do I put that together? And the answer is I'm always looking, for an internal guide in that way. I really trust my instinct. And I'm ruthless about getting rid of things. I didn't used to be like this because I would be like, oh, it's kind of good. It's okay. I mean, not really out loud, but I would try to talk myself into it. So now gone, like not excellent, not there. So I just, I have a lot of pictures, so why would I want another so one? So I want to make good ones all the time.
Anything else? Okay.
Hey, thank you so much.
One second.
Go to my show. You know you're gonna be in town. We do contests there.
What Rose was saying is come to see her show at the Portland Museum,
No, University of New England.
the University of New
Portland
England,
Campus.
Portland campus
Off of Stevens Avenue
off of Stevens Avenue.
is the art gallery.
Okay.
For how long?
For how long? When is the date?
Early September.
It's gonna be quite a while.
We'll post the information. Oh, there is a card here, and for those of you that are online, we will post the information on our website. So please do go and see Rose's show, and we really appreciate it. Rose, thank you. Work is fascinating, and I know you'll have a lot of questions during our little reception that we're going to have right now. Also, last, I can't forget, one of the most important people at our library right now is our director, Jen Dupree. She has been really instrumental in the revitalization. She's been instrumental in the revitalization of our library since COVID, and we are so fortunate to have her as our director, leading the charge with creativity and hard work. And our board commends you for having a fabulous, fabulous year. So I'd like you to come up and give you a little. There is a card for you somewhere right there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work. And there she is. We also want to say a special thank you to all of our library staff. They work very hard. You come in, they answer your questions. They're always just cheerful, and we're so fortunate here at Charlotte Hobbs. So again, thank you so much for coming out tonight, and for everybody who was able to come online. And I'm sorry that the people online will miss our reception, but everyone else enjoy. Thank you again.